Welcome to Real Judaism with Rabbi Klapper. Unfiltered wisdom for Jewish life.
Okay, we're holding now a few days before Yom Kippur. This is the time. This is the time. Today is Tuesday. Yom Kippur is on Friday night. We're on Tuesday night. So we're holding 3 days before Yom Kippur. And when it comes to doing Teshuva, Teshuva is a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do. But you know what? The first thing that you need to do for Teshuva, is to recognize that you have a problem. There's something wrong. And just coming to the shiur, just listening to the shiur is already a step in the right direction. Because not only are we saying there's an issue, there's something that we need to work on, but I actually want to work on it. I actually do want to work on it, and that's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. We don't even realize it. If we could break tshuva down into steps, right? We can break it down into steps. The first step is even before the parts of tshuva of charata, feeling bad about it, and vidui, verbally admitting it, saying the word, I did this, I did that, which is probably, according to the Rambam, the actual ikar mitzvah of tshuva, and then kabbalah ola osid, what we're going to be working on for the future. Before any of that, the first thing we need to do is say, wait a second, there's something wrong here. I have something to work on. I have something that I need to change. That is the first step. If a person doesn't have that, if a person doesn't acknowledge, doesn't realize that there's something wrong, then they're not involved with tshuva at all. When the first thing we have to realize is this is wrong. We're doing the wrong thing over here. We need to stop for a second and just acknowledge what it is. Even if I don't really regret doing it, but I still know that it's wrong. I still know that it's wrong. Well, why do you keep doing it? Because I want to. I know it's wrong, but I want to keep. I have a taiva. I have a taiva. I know it's wrong, but I have a taiva. Right? Somebody who doesn't know that it's wrong, he thinks that it's right. He's much worse off. I remember when I was growing up, I just didn't know things were wrong. Nobody told me. When I was 18 years old, I was in a shiur one time, and all of a sudden they told me certain things were asur. Like, whoa. Nobody told me that. In fact, when I was younger, some people even blatantly lied to my face. Now, to be done them the kafschus, we could say they also didn't really know, and that's why they lied to me. When they told me that, I asked them, isn't this and this like kol isha? Like I shouldn't be listening to a girl saying, no, it's perfectly all right. No, that's perfect. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going swimming with girls. Nothing wrong with it at all, right? Only those guys who wear black hats have a problem with it. You know, the fanatics, those guys, right? They're a bunch of crazies, those guys, right? You know, so the people who tell you that, is it because they just blatantly lying to you? Or do they themselves are misled? When I was and still living in America, and I was working on building up my Mila business, meaning I'm a moil, and I wanted to get more business as a moil. So I went around to try to, tell people about myself. And, every Jew male needs to have a bris Mila, regardless of whether they're really frum or not. Everybody needs. So I decided I'm going to try to go to the less frum communities, to the less frum or not really so frum places like conservative and reform, to maybe I can get some business over there. They're also Jewish men that also need a bris Mila. So, and as long as they're a Jew, every Jew should have a bris Mila, regardless of whether he's religious or not. He should have a bris Mila. So I figured that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to try to get business in that area. And I met different people, Rabbi Jennifer, and I met, all kinds of interesting people over there. But I really met two types of rabbis from Reform, Conservative, these types, two types. The older generation and the younger, newer generation. The newer generation of rabbis, who were at the time probably around my age, maybe just a little bit older, were complete amarotzim. Meaning they didn't know basics of anything. They thought in order to be a rabbi, you have to know a lot of politics about Israel. You have to be a Democrat, and you have to, be liberal, That's what it takes to be a rabbi, right? And you have to maybe speak a little bit Hebrew and be able to read a little bit of Hebrew, and you're good, right? And you now have to know how to work a crowd, right? Maybe you have to be a good fundraiser also. So that's what it means takes to be a rabbi. But they didn't know. They didn't know the halacha because they weren't taught it. They didn't. They weren't. They were just amaratzim, nebuch. Miskin these people. But the older generation of rabbis really did know the halacha, and they purposely were doing the wrong thing. They did know. That was a scarier one, right? They knew where they were doing the wrong thing. They knew what the halacha was, and they purposely were doing the wrong thing.
Because he hated God.
I don't know why. You know what? I didn't interview them. Why? If you know the right thing, why are you doing the wrong thing? I didn't ask them that question. I was younger, and they were much older than me, so it was a little bit intimidating, especially because I wanted to get their business. So I wasn't really interested in their hashkafa. I was more interested in send me people that I could do bris milah. That was my only goal involved here. My goal wasn't to give you a stamp of approval on your hashkafa. What?
Do they pay more?
Honestly, I don't remember. Probably not. It's probably all the same. But lemaisa, there are those like this and those like that, and therefore you can be dam the kafschut that people just don't know the halacha, and that's why they're not doing tshuva. But for us, we do know. We do know that this is an issue, and for those who don't know, it's become a lot more publicized in the last little while. I mean, certainly, organizations like Vayim who put out videos all the time, and make it much more well known that this is a serious issue. So once we know that this is true, so then we have to take it seriously. And so that's the first step. The first step is I need to know that this is a problem. The second step is I have to make a decision. The decision is I want to change. I want to change. I don't want to be like this. I do want to change. That is already a major step in doing tshuva. It's a major step in doing tshuva. Once a person takes that step, he's already in a different path. He might be very, very far, but he's heading in the right direction now. That is a major thing to do. I don't want to. It may sound simple. It's not simple at all. A person has to get up and have the courage to say, I need to change my life. I need to do something different. Did he actually do anything yet? No, but sometimes it's that fear. It's the fear about how am I going to do it? It's the fear of step number 2, which doesn't allow you to do step number 1. It's the fear of, can I honestly say to myself that I'm really going to change it? Because I know I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm not even going to decide to try. Let's take 2 different steps. Separate the 2 completely. Don't make your decision in step 1 based on what you think you can or cannot do in step number 2. Step number 2 is talking about how you actually go about doing it. Step number 1 is first a decision. I'm going to be different. I'm going to change. I'm not like this. I'm a different person. Right? This is one of the eitzes that I think I told you, Shalom, which was, what am I supposed to do? I'm having difficulty. View yourself differently. I'm not this person now. Does that mean that I'm not going to fall every once in a while? Because I definitely could fall once in a while. But the idea is, what's my identity? How do I identify myself? I'm a person who fights the Yetzer Hara. I'm a person who's better than that. I'm a person who really wants to build my life and build my future family and build myself up and not be drawn down by what the secular world is throwing at me. I'm better than that. I'm going to have better than that. It's all in your mind. Yes, a person might feel like a hypocrite if after the fact that, well, then why am I looking at all these things? But that's really step number 2. That's really, we have to look at it. We have to look at it as 2 different steps. Because if you can do that, if you can look at it as 2 different steps, then you really have a much better chance at being successful. Your decision doesn't necessarily have to do with whether or not you'll be successful or not. Once you decide, Hashem will help you. Does that mean there'll be falls here and there? Certainly doesn't mean that. Yeah, you probably will. You probably will have falls. Everybody does. You have to have bitachon. You have to turn to Hashem, like we discussed in previous weeks. You have to turn to Hashem. You have to daven for help, for sure. Tefillah is the best. And I always say once you get into a rhythm, if you're on the street and you're passing by something that you shouldn't be looking at, and you turn away, at that moment when you turn away, it's brought down the Svarim HaKadoshim, I think Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein brings this, that a person has the opportunity at that moment to daven. Daven for whatever you want. Do you know what's a great thing to daven for? Hashem, please help me turn away the next time too. Give me strength to turn away the next time. Give me strength that it'll be much easier for me the next time. It'll be natural. Because really the key in stage number 2 is just to get ragil. That you should eat ragil, but it should become regular. It should become a part of your team. It should be natural. It should be instinctive. That I just turn away. When it comes up, I just turn away. I don't even have to think about it. I just do it. That takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. Right? Just coming back to being a moil for a second. When you're doing a bris, you shouldn't really even have to think about what you're doing. Your hands should just move. The hands should know what they're doing with it without you thinking about it. Obviously, you're thinking, making sure, whatever. But the hands should be so ragil that they just do what they're supposed to. You obviously can't do it with your eyes closed and without thinking and in your sleep. Obviously, that's not true. But once you become regular in it, it goes so much smoother. And anything is like that. That's stage 2. But it takes a while to get to that point. It's something that takes hard work. But you shouldn't think that the hard work lasts forever. It doesn't. When you're misragel in it, it becomes a lot easier. Yes, you always need to have maintenance. There always need to be more chizuk. There always needs to be, listen to the shir again. Listen to the shir again. I listen to all the shirim all the time, and they're my own shirim. I listen to myself. Why? Because that keeps it on your mind. By keeping it on your mind, so it gives you more chizuk all the time. Listen to the shurim again and again. Well, how many times am I going to get bored? I want to hear something new. That's a big problem with this generation. They always want something new, something new, something new, something new. But what about all the quality things that you had already? No. Yes, it's true, we do need his chachus. And built into the Torah is his chachus. Built into the year, the Jewish year is his chachus. But if we don't take the quality of each particular thing, each specific thing, then all we have is shidchi. Everything is very shallow. Only taking a shallow part of each thing that passes by. There's so much depth. There's so much there, and it can be making part of ourselves so much better. And that's really what I have to do with the second stage. Second stage of getting used to keeping these things. And it doesn't mean there aren't going to be nisyonos, and it doesn't mean there aren't going to be falls. And it's sad to say when a guy says, I've been doing so well, and then I fell. So it's nothing. That's not true. Not true. A guy says to me that he's been careful with Shmir Seinayim for 2 months, 3 months, but then he fell. But now it's been another month, so he's another month. I said, no, it's not another month. That's 4 months. That's not 3 months and then a break and then 1 month. That's 4 months. Oh, what about that fall in the middle? That's part of the process too. Obviously, we don't want to fall, and we're not trying to do it on purpose. But it doesn't mean that it's not part of the whole process. When we look at the whole thing, those 3 months are not gone. Those 3 months are still part of it, and you should be very proud of those 3 months. Very proud. Because that's still part of the work. And it's a big part of the work, too. So we have to realize, first thing we do, just make the decision. Make the decision. Coming into Yom Kippur, a person can say, Hashem, I'm making a decision. I'm going to work on this. This is something that's important to me. I'm going to work on it. And I really don't want to do it. I really don't. And now I can also say, if I really want to work on it, I realize that, you know what? It probably wasn't the right thing to do. And I'm embarrassed about it. And I have charata. I wish I wouldn't have. I wish I never would have been in this. I wish I never would have gotten into this in the first place. Right? It's very sad that people get into these problems because they think that they're making a decision. Teenagers, sometimes very young teenagers, who don't really have the ability to make good decisions, but they think they do. And they make very, very poor decisions, and those decisions they have to deal with them for the rest of their life. It's very scary, very sad. But,
like what?
Well, let's say like smoking. If you have a 14, 15-year-old kid who decides he's going to start smoking at that age, right? Because whatever the reason is, so yeah, I smack him, that's right. But you know what? When they're 14 or 15 years old, a lot of times they can punch harder than you can. So So you got to be careful with that. And then when they turn around, when they're 25, 30, 35, and they're like, why am I smoking? It's just killing me. Why am I doing that? And it's because I made a mistake when I was 15 years old. And unfortunately, you see that all the time. And certainly when it comes to Shmir Seinayim, when a person makes a mistake when they're younger, and they take on things and they have the ability to now watching all the time, or they look at things, they actually start to look at things all the time, and then they come back like, why did I do this? Why did I make that decision in the first place? But it's too late already. And if they would go and tell the 15-year-old, hey, don't make the same mistake I did, the 15-year-old says, get lost, old man. I can make my own decisions, right? Listen, I was you. I made the same wrong mistakes that you did, that you're about to make. Don't do it. You're going to ruin your life. I'm telling you, I'm an example of that. Don't do it. But they don't listen. And year after year, you see the same problems again and again and again. And it's very, very sad because nobody learns from the previous one's mistakes. So, okay. So you see, you have people who make decisions when they're young and they're going to hurt them for the rest of their lives. But the Chodesh Baruch Hu gave a person that choice. You have the Bechira, but you also have the Bechira to change. You have the Bechira to decide not to. Now, we're going to get more into what can we do differently. What can we do differently? What are some tools that we can use? So we discussed davening for sure, davening for help. The best thing a person can do is keep his mind on other things. Why? Learning Torah is the best. There's no question. Learning Torah is the best because when you have Torah in your head, we discussed many times, you have Torah in your head, there aren't going to be room for other things. But it's hard for some people to do that. So what are some other ways of dealing with these issues? Number one, we could talk about socializing, being social, being a person who is involved with other people, feeling friendship. These are things that are very, very big. One of the main reasons why people get into taivas is because of boredom, because they're lonely, because they feel that nobody cares about them. They feel depressed. So naturally, what's the Yetzer Hara going to do? The Yetzer Hara is going to do, come with me. I want to make you feel better. I'm going to make you feel better. And he's going to prove it. You know how he's going to prove it? He gives you something that you like, something you enjoy. See, I told you I'll make you feel better. See, I told you. Come, let's watch this. Let's look at that. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel nice? So for that moment, yeah, you do get a little bit of pleasure. You do. And it takes away from the boredom. It takes away from feeling lonely. It takes away from feeling depressed until it's over. Once it's over, you feel even worse than when you started. Like, not only am I don't have any friends, but I'm doing these disgusting things. So you would think logically you would never do it again, but it doesn't work like that. That's not what happens. What happens is that, again, he feels lonely, and again the Yetzer Hara comes and promises you're going to have pleasure, and it's true, there is, and he somehow lets you forget about the way you're going to feel afterwards, how you're going to feel afterwards, and you feel bad afterwards. He makes you forget about that. Or sometimes you don't even forget about that, but you feel like you don't have a choice. You feel like you're stuck. So the more a person can be involved with other people, build up friendships, so that is a major, major help. When a person is atzuv, when he's sad, that could lead to every possible aveira under the sun. Depression is the worst. When a person feels down and depressed, it can be over in every single aveira. Certainly aveiras of Gilui Arayos. Certainly aveiras of Shmir Seinayim and Gilui Arayos, a person can be over on if he feels depressed and down. And he says, oh, Hashem understands me. Hashem will forgive me because I'm so nebuch, I'm so miskin, I'm so sad. Hashem will forgive me. But that's not the truth. The truth is that Hashem knows you can be miskaber, you just need the right tools, you need to be able to do it. So that's a big thing. Get yourself a social outlet. People that you're around. Sometimes that might mean, in yeshiva. It could mean, playing sports. It could be, doing projects with friends, doing anything with friends. That is a big deal. Chavrus is obviously also. But that is a very big deal. That's how a person can come to just, I have a life. I'm very happy with my life. I don't need to come to these things. I don't need to be depressed. I don't need that cheap pleasure, which I know that is, I'm just going to feel bad about. I have a good life. And you know what? My wife is going to be so much better than all this junk that you're trying to show me. Because that's going to be quality. That's going to be real. That's going to be deep. Not like this. It's going to be much better. So a person should actively go out there to try to find people to connect with. That is it is a very important thing. Even if a person is not necessarily with friends, they can exercise also. Exercise is great. It takes out that energy. It makes you feel good afterwards. Generally, when a person exercises, so they release certain hormones, which actually scientifically are proven to make you feel good. So if a person is feeling down, I feel bad. Do you know what you should do? Just exercise. Exercise for a few minutes.
Go for a walk or run.
Go for a walk. Go for a run. Yeah. Or it could be even something you can do right there. Let's say, I don't want to go out now. Okay, so do some squats. Do some push-ups. Right? Take a couple of water bottles like I do and use them as weights. Right? Because I don't own any weights. I do actually own some weights, but I like the water bottles better anyway. Yeah, 2 liters on each hand, right? That's it. So that's why I'm as buff as I am. Right? So Lemaise, just doing some exercise releases hormones in the brain, which actually make you feel good. They do. It improves your mood. So even if you're feeling down at any point, you can always do this. There is one drawback to this though, and that's doing it at night. If you do it at night, you might not be able to fall asleep afterwards. Because the similar hormones they also release, they don't allow you to fall asleep. That was a mistake I made once upon a time, where I did my workouts at night and then I couldn't fall asleep afterwards. So, besides for that, you can do it otherwise anytime. Yeah, take a walk. It brings you energy and it can bring your good mood. Now, when it comes to certainly in Yanim of Shmir Sinayim, you have to realize that there might be certain places that create triggers that if I am involved with this thing, or if I go to those places, or if I do these things, so then those are going to cause me problems. This specific friend is not really much of a friend for me, because whenever I'm with him, we always do bad things. So when we have to be careful not to be with that person, right? If I go to a certain place or I walk by a certain street, so then it's going to cause a problem, and you can't do that. I'll tell you, there was many years ago, many years ago, back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was a bacher. So in the yeshiva that I was in, there was a program where a different school of, I think it was Bukharian boys, came to our yeshiva to learn with the Bachrim. Learn with the Bachrim. It's voluntary. Anybody who wanted to could be, like, kind of like a big brother, but it was only, I don't even remember how often it was, once every couple of weeks. They would come, and a group of these Bukharian boys who didn't have a very solid background, and this Hasidic Rav basically took them on and started a school for them, and he brought them every once in a while to our yeshiva to learn with the Bachrim. So I was learning one time with one of these boys, and I asked this Rav, I said, what should I learn with him? So he said, you should learn with him the Taich for Shmona Esrei. And he learn with him what the words of Shmona Esrei mean. That's what he said we should do. Learn the words of Shmona Esrei. Learn what they mean. Pashup Pshat. What are you saying when you're saying the words of Shmona Esrei? So we got to the bracha of Lamal Shinim. Right? The Lamal Shinim is talking about the Rishoyim. That we don't want the Lamal Shinim. The Malshin is a person who's a moiser, who squeals on people to the authorities, and Jews to the authorities. Right? But it's talking about Malshinim, according to one gear, it's called a Risha, or it's talking about the Rishoyim, that they should be lost. And all of a sudden we started to discuss a specific problem that he was having. It was kind of come out in a funny way. We were talking about this bracha, about Malshinim, how Rishoyim should be lost, meaning that they should be destroyed. Rishus, meaning evilness, should be destroyed in Rishoyim. And he said to me this line, he said to me, but she's always there. And that's what he said. He said, but she's always there. I realized we were talking about somebody very specific. He wasn't just talking about Rishoyim. He was talking about somebody very, very specifically, like, she's always there. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, so I'm like, I was a little bit like taken aback by it because I could tell he was talking about something that's very specific, but he didn't tell me what it was. And of course, I wasn't such a, experienced mechanech at that time. So I came up with this idea of, maybe it's a good idea to exercise. Maybe it's a good idea to go for a walk. And he said this line to me. I'll never forget it. He said, walking is bad for my eyes. That's what he said. That's what he said to me. Walking is bad. Walking is bad for my eyes. So again, here I understood that he was talking about something very specific to his life and to where where he was living. So that's what we're saying about triggers. There's certain places, certain things that will trigger, that will cause a person to be more, bring on the Yetzer Hara more, right? And it's important if we can. And this is also part of tshuva. A big part of tshuva is not necessarily the hitragel part, right? To become accustomed to it, but it's actually we have to use our brain a little bit. Meaning, if a person is, let's call it smart tshuva, right? There's smart chesed. We're talking about smart tshuva. Smart tshuva is that I'm not just saying that, oh, I wish I never would have done this. I don't want to change anyone. That's smart tshuva is, let's think about this for a second. Where is the root of this problem? Where does the problem stem from? Where do I see it's more difficult and less difficult? Where can I be better? And where can I just escape? Where can I run away? Meaning, if you make a plan, if you identify the problem, right? My problem is Shmir Seinayim. Okay. Now, do you have that problem with Shmir Seinayim everywhere? Meaning, you have that problem with Shmir Seinayim 24 hours a day? No. When I'm sleeping, when I'm sleeping, maybe I also have the problem with Shmir Seinayim, depending on what you're dreaming, right? But I don't have the problem certain times in the day. When do you have the problem of Shmir Seinayim? Let's think about it for a second. Let's identify where's the issues. Is the main issue my phone? Is the main issue when I'm walking around on the street? Is the main issue when I'm around other people? Is the main issue when I'm not around other people? Is the main issue, or we can even chart our day. What really when is my issue? When is not my issue? Some people really do have an issue with their phones. I remember sitting with a bacher. This was also one of these memorable moments that I was like so blown away by the hashgacha pratis in this moment. Here in the yeshiva, it was when the yeshiva wasn't here in this building. It was before remember when we were in Karlibach. And it was a bunch of years ago. I'll never forget this moment. It was glaring in my face, and in this bacher's face too. I was talking to this bacher about him using his phone, his smartphone. So it couldn't have been too long ago, right? And I guess it could have been. Smartphones have been around already now for 17, 18 years already. Maybe even more. No, 17 years. 2004, 2007 was the first smartphones. So we were talking to him. I was talking to him about his phone, and I was talking about, are you using your phone too much? You want to cut down your use on your phone? He's like, I don't have a problem with my phone. I'm okay. I don't have any issue with my phone. So maybe it's kedai to cut down on your usage. Maybe you want to do a little, maybe you should cut it down a little bit less. So I said, is it possible that there are apps that track your usage, that track your time usage? So he said, yeah, sure. So we did a search. I don't know, must have been like 100 different apps came up for time to be able to track your usage on your phone. And he's like, whoa, I'm like, which one? I'm like, I don't know. What do I know about apps? And so we just picked the first one that was there, and he downloaded it. It took like a couple minutes. But as soon as he downloaded it, it took a few seconds, and this app analyzed everything that he was on this phone. It took all the information that was on his phone, and jumped up on the screen was, you are an addict to this phone. That's what jumped up on the screen. Boom! You're an addict to this phone. That's what it was. And I still remember his face. He was like shocked. The first thing you do, you download the app, boom, you're an addict to the phone. And statistics to prove it. Statistics to prove your usage on this phone. So when we have to identify where's the issue, we have to be honest with ourselves. Do I really want to change? Yes. Okay, I really want to change. Let's be smart about it. Let's be smart. How am I smart? Identify where my problem is. And this takes a lot of courage. Every step here takes a lot of courage. Every step. I'll tell you another story. Short story, but this is a story that happened just this past Shabbos. This story was memorable to me, even though it just happened now, but maybe I'll be talking about it for years into the future because it was very, very memorable. This shul, this past Shabbos in shul, the Rav, it was Shabbos Shuva, so the Rav says Shabbos Shuva is Rasha, so usually he doesn't speak by Shachris because he has a Shabbos Shuva besides the fact that it was also 2 days Yontis before that and so many speeches. So he took a break and he didn't speak on Shabbos morning, but he asked somebody else from the Kehillah to speak instead. And the person who spoke happened to be he's a Talmid Chacham. The person is very, very bright and has learned tremendous amount of Torah. And he's also a Maggid Shir, and a very chashuv person. Got up to speak. And after he spoke, I said, you had a lot of courage for saying what you said. What did he say? What did he do? He got up to speak and he said to everybody in the Kehillah, in front of everybody, he said, I want to show you something. I have in my hand here is a letter. And he held it up to everybody. This is a letter. And this letter is the letter that I just received. I just received this letter. I think he said it was this week or more, very recently I received this letter. And the letter was handwritten. And the letter, he said, was written by me. I wrote a letter to myself. I wrote a letter a year ago. I wrote a letter a year ago to myself. And in that letter, I wrote about what I was like a year ago. And I wrote it and I gave it to a friend. I told him, mail it to me in another year. And he did. And I received it in the mail. And I got this letter in the mail and I opened it up and I saw it was my letter. And I read it. And I'll tell you, he said, I didn't change one bit from last year. Do you know how scary that is? And he went on to say, no, we still have the opportunity to do tshuva, and we still can, there's still hope, and it's not, he went on to give a lot of chizuk. But afterwards, I said to him, it was godless. That's real godless. It's real godless because who knows better than yourself what you need to work on? Who knows? The problem is that the scariest person that you have to face in life is yourself. I have to face myself. I can try to fool myself, and I can fool myself, but if I'm being honest, it's scary because I actually have to face who I am, which is why a lot of people don't want to do it. But you know what? It's so liberating. It gives a person such a feeling of, I can really do this. It's scary in the beginning. It is very, very scary, which I said to him, it had a lot of courage, not only just to do it, but to share it with the whole Kehillah. And I said, I got a lot of chizuk from this. I was very inspired by it because it shows I have to face myself. I have to face myself and see where am I falling? Where are my difficulties? What can I do about it? And even if I come out and say I'm exactly the same as last year, exactly the same, I haven't improved one bit. But I still have that focus. I still have to do it. And already a year ago, I acknowledged that. So maybe this year is going to be different. Why? Because now I'm taking it seriously now. I am. I'm going to take it seriously. This was a major, major thing. To be shown right in your face. This is who you are. Here, take a mirror. Look in the mirror. See who you are. Who's going to hear? Who's going to know? Only you. So that's why we're saying smart tshuva. Smart tshuva means let's actually stop and think. Where are the places that I'm having difficulties with this? Where's it hard? And what can I do in order to fix those places? Maybe if there's so many places, maybe I should just work on one for now. And like we mentioned many, many times in the past, a person who needs help can come for help. A person who needs, okay, Rabbi, I identified, what can I do now? We could talk about that. We could talk about what a person can do. But the first step is you. You have to identify what Where are the difficulties for you? And I want to change. I want to be different. Bez Hashem, a person goes into Rosh Hashanah or now Yom Kippur. With that, Bez Hashem will get a full kapara and will get a gemar chasima toiva. Okay, we'll stop over here. Go on.
Thank you for joining Real Judaism, where we explore Torah's wisdom for real life. Created by J Foundations and produced by Eli Podcast Productions. Find more episodes at realjudaism.org and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.